Hello Year 10s. In this video I'm going to take you through the step-by-step solution of the equations of motion worksheet I gave you before Christmas holidays. Okay, so let's look at the first question, and you can see that I have already made some annotations on the question. This is how usually I do these sort of questions. I read through the question, and wherever I see a data I mark it then and there itself, and I make sure the units are also what they want us to have. So if you look at the first question, a bike accelerates uniformly from rest. So from rest, whenever they tell you, it means that the initial velocity is 0. That's why I have put u is equal to 0. To a speed of 7.1 meters per second, so that is our v. Over a distance, units are fine. So determine the acceleration. So they have given us u, v and s, and they want us to find a. So we go for the equation v square is equal to u square plus 2as. So we plug in the value. 7.10 square is equal to u is 0 plus 2 times a is what we need to find, 35.4 meters. And then if I rearrange, first I'm going to write down the values. 7.1 square is 50.41 is equal to 70.88. So A will be 50.41 divided by 70.8, which means 0.71 meter per second square. So that should be how you are working out the first one. Now let's move on to the next one. An engineer is designing a runway for the airport. Of the planes which will use the airport, the lowest acceleration is likely to be 3 meters per second square. So that is our A. The takeoff speed for this plane will be around 65 miles per hour. So the takeoff speed. So initially the planes will be moving through the runway, and just before or at the time of takeoff their speed is going to be that. So that is what happens at the end of their movement. So that is a value of v. And initially the airplanes are going to be at rest, right? So u is going to be 0. Assuming this minimum acceleration, what is the length? So they want us to find s. So they have given us u, a and v, and they're asking us to find s. So v square equals u square plus 2as again. V is 65 square is equal to 0 plus 2 times a is 3, and you need to find s. So if you rearrange, you will get s as 704.16 meter. Don't forget the units. Okay, moving on to the next one. A kangaroo is capable of jumping to a height. So s is given to us. Determine the takeoff speed. So they want us to find u of the kangaroo. Hint: acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration is due to gravity only. So whenever they tell you acceleration is due to gravity only, that means they want you to take a as g, gravity, which is 10 meters per second square. If anybody wants to go for 9.8, you're most welcome, no problem at all. And then another thing you have to keep in mind in such questions is whenever something is going to a maximum height, at the maximum height they won't be moving, or their final speed is going to be 0. Okay, so whenever any object goes to a maximum height, they won't tell you that separately. You need to assume that you need to take that v is 0. So you know v, you know s, you know a, you need to find u. Again, our equation is v square equals u square plus 2as. V is 0, u is what you need to find out, plus 2 times. Now here, one more thing you have to keep in mind is acceleration due to gravity always acts downwards. But in this case, the object is going upwards. So the value of A is not just 10, the value of A is minus 10. So keep that in mind. Whenever an object goes in a direction opposite to the acceleration due to gravity, which means whenever the object moves up, acceleration due to gravity will be minus times 2.62. So 0 is equal to u square minus 52.4, or u is equal to the square root of 52.4, which is 7.24 meters per second. Okay. Question 4 is very similar to what we did before. He has a vertical leap of this much, so that is our S. What is his takeoff speed? So u is what he wants. And his hang time, total time to move upwards and then come down. So we have to find his takeoff speed and his hang time. So when he is jumping up, the only force acting on him is the acceleration due to gravity. He is going up, acceleration due to gravity is acting down, so it should be minus 10 meters per second. So same like before, u square. So v square is equal to u square plus 2as. V is, what is his takeoff speed? So v, he is going to the maximum height and then coming down, isn't it? So v is going to be 0, u square plus 2 times a is minus 10 times s is 1.29. So if you rearrange and square root, u will be 5.07 meters per second. Now in this, the only thing is we have to find an extra thing, which is the time. Again, when he's going to his peak, we know that v is 0. Now we know that u is 5.07 meters per second. He's going against gravity, so a is minus 10 meters per second square. What is t is the question. So t is going to be, so if we know v, u, a and we have to find t, the equation connecting all four of them is a equals v minus u over t. So minus 10 equals 0 minus 5.07 divided by t, and you will get t as 0.507 seconds. But what you need to keep in mind is this is the time only to reach the maximum height. The question is go towards the peak and come back. So the total time is going to be 0.507 times 2. So you get the total time as 1.02 seconds. Okay. Now moving on to the fifth one. A bullet leaves a rifle with a muzzle velocity of 521 meters per second. So the bullet is moving through the rifle and then it leaves the rifle at 521 meters per second. So this has to be our final speed. Initially the bullet will be at rest inside the gun. So u is going to be 0. Then when it is accelerating through the rifle, it moves a distance of this much. So s is given to you. So s is equal to 0.840 meters. Determine the acceleration. So you know u, you know v, you know s, you need to find a. So v square is equal to u square plus 2as. 521 square is equal to 0 plus 2 times a is what you need to find, s is 0.84. If you rearrange it, you will get a as 1.6 times 10 to the power 5 meters per second square. If not in scientific form, it should be 16 followed by 4 zeros meters per second Okay, so is that clear, all of you? Now we are moving on to question number 6. So a bullet is moving at a speed. So a bullet that was moving at a speed of 367 meters per second. So that is our U. It embeds into a lump of moist clay. So once it gets into the clay, what happens to its final speed? It's going to come to rest. It is moving through this distance. So that is our S. Determine the acceleration. So we know U, we know V, we know S. They want us to find acceleration. So V square is equal to U square plus 2AS. V is 0, U is 367 square plus 2 times A is what we need to find. Acceleration is 0.621. So if you rearrange, you get acceleration as 1.08 times 10 to the power 6 meters per second square. Now, if anybody was wondering, oh, Mrs. Nair seems to be very clever, she's doing all those calculations faster. I have already done this and I have kept the final answers in front of me to save time in the video. So, moving on to question 7. It was once recorded, so it left skid marks which were 290 meters in length. So S is 290 meters. Assuming that it skidded to a stop. So stop, it is coming to a stop means the final speed is going to be 0. Acceleration is given to you. And then what is the speed before it began to skid? So they want us to find U. So we know V, A and S. We need to find U. So V square equals U square plus 2AS. V is 0. U is what we need to find out. Plus 2 times A is minus 3.9 times S is 290 meters. So again, if you rearrange, your final answer should be 47.6 meters per second. Now, an easy place to lose marks will be forgetting either to square in the case of V and U, or forgetting to find the square root in the final answers. Okay, otherwise it is easy to do. So question number 8. A plane has a takeoff speed of this much and requires 1365 meters to reach that speed. So that is the distance traveled. So takeoff speed, so that is our final thing. So our V is 88.3. This is our S. Determine the acceleration and the time required. So what is happening to the plane initially? Initially it's not going to move, right? So U is 0. So you know U, V and S. Find A. So we go for V square is equal to U square plus 2AS. 88.3 square is equal to 0 plus 2 times A is what we need to find. S is 1365. And if you figure it out, you get the acceleration as 2.86 meters per second square. Okay, that's the first part done. Then you need to find the time also. So we know A, we know U, we know V, and we need to find T. So if we know A, the equation that connects A and T is A equals V minus U over T. So 2.82 equals V was 88.3 minus 0 divided by the time is what you need to find out. And finally, after rearranging, you will get 30.8 seconds. So one part, the answer is 2.86 and the other part is 30.8. Just 2 more questions. A dragster accelerates to a speed of this much over this distance. So speed is given to you, so it accelerates to a speed finally this much after going through this distance, so that is s. So initially it has to be at rest, so u is 0. Determine the acceleration. V square is equal to u square plus 2as. V square is 112 square plus u is 0, sorry, is equal to, not plus, 0 plus 2 times a is what you need to find, s is 398. And if you rearrange it, you will get a as 15.8 meters per second square. Now, this should be how you are doing these questions. I didn't write v square equals u square plus 2as each time because I didn't know that equation. So this is the format you should be using while you do these type of questions. You should not be jumping into the final answer. Anything goes wrong, you lose the complete 3 to 4 marks. So if you have the working, there's always a chance that you might just lose that one final mark and you get all the other marks for the steps and substitution. So yes, end of the show coming closer. With what speed in miles per hour must an object be thrown to that height? So miles per hour thing, we will think about it later. So with what speed must an object be thrown to a height? So this is the height. So if it reaches that height, we have already discussed, at that height v is going to be 0. It is going up, acceleration is acting down, so a is equal to g, which is minus 10 meters per second square. So you know s, v and a, we need to find u. So v square is equal to u square plus 2as. 0 is equal to u square is what we need to find, 2 times minus 10 times 91.5. And you end up getting u as 42.8 meters per second. Now this is meters per second. Our question is not done. Our final answer should be in miles per hour. So 1 meter per second is 2.23 miles per hour. So this should be 42.8 times 2.23, which is 95.4 miles per hour. Okay, so that is the end of the worksheet. As I said, the important key things in this topic is starting from rest means u is 0, going to a maximum height means v is 0. Anything is going up, the only force acting on it is gravity, but since it is going up, it is going against gravity, so the value of a should not just be g, it should be minus 10. Okay, so use this, cross-check it with your answers and see where you went wrong. Okay then, bye-bye.